Christmas used to mean something in my house. The smell of pine, cookies in the oven, and my son tearing into presents with that sparkle in his eye was always the one day I felt like the world slowed down and loved me back. But last Christmas was different. I sat alone, staring at the tree I decorated, waiting for a knock on the door that never came. My son promised he'd visit, said he had plans, but the silence stretched into hours, then the whole night. He didn't even call. I thought maybe he was stuck in traffic. Maybe something came up, but deep down, I knew he'd forgotten me. Forgotten the woman who worked double shifts to put him through college, who skipped meals so he never went hungry. That night, with only the blinking lights of the tree to keep me company, something inside me broke. And just like that, my Christmas spirit turned into something sharper. The next morning, I checked my phone hoping for a message, but there was nothing. Not even a lazy Merry Christmas text. Later, I scrolled through Facebook, and that's when it hit me like a brick. There he was, my son, smiling in pictures at some fancy Christmas party with his girlfriend's family. The tree was massive, the gifts piled high, champagne glasses in their hands, and me. I wasn't even a thought in his mind. My chest tightened, anger mixing with humiliation. I sacrificed everything for him: missed birthdays, worked graveyard shifts, pawned jewelry, just to pay tuition, and now I am a ghost in his world. The comments under the photos stung worse than the pictures themselves. What a perfect family. So blessed to be surrounded by love. I couldn't stop staring at his smile, so carefree, while I sat in silence with a cold cup of coffee. That was the moment I realized he didn't just forget me, he replaced me. 4 days after, I replayed that night in my head, every detail like a splinter under my skin. I tried to reason with myself. Maybe he was busy, maybe he'd make it up to me, but the excuses ran dry. The truth was plain. I was no longer a priority. And that's when the idea of revenge started to take root. Not screaming, not begging, but something colder, something that would sting every time he remembered it. I started planning, quietly, in the shadows of my little kitchen. I dug out old documents, savings accounts, even the house deed I'd always planned to leave him one day. If he thought I was disposable, I'd show him just how much he stood to lose. I didn't want to hurt him physically. No. I wanted to hurt him in a way he'd never forget, strip away the comfort I had built for him. Because if he could forget me on Christmas, I could make sure he'd never spend another holiday in peace. The first step was simple: take back control of what was mine. I had co-signed his first car, still had leverage on that loan. A single call, a reminder to the bank about missed payments he'd been ignoring. And within a week, the car was gone, towed right out of his girlfriend's driveway. Next, I pulled my name off the joint savings account I had generously left open for him, the one he thought was his safety net, empty, and legally back in my possession. I didn't stop there. The deed to this house, the very home he assumed would one day be his, got rewritten in my will with his name nowhere on it. I donated to charities, set up scholarships, even left a portion to the local church. Every move was quiet, legal, and deliberate. And the best part, he had no idea yet. I was rewriting the story of his inheritance, piece by piece, while he toasted champagne with people who didn't know the real him. The first crack in his perfect little world showed up when he called me in a rage about the car. "Mom, they took it. What did you do?" His voice was sharp, desperate, but I stayed calm, sipping my tea like nothing was out of place. "I didn't do anything, son. You missed payments. Actions have consequences," he sputtered, trying to twist the blame back on me. But I hung up before he could finish. Then came the bank calls, his girlfriend's whispers that maybe he wasn't as stable as he pretended to be. I heard through neighbors that he was scrambling, borrowing money, lying about why the savings account was empty. For the first time, he wasn't the golden boy. He was just another man with no car, no cash, and no safety net. And the best part, he didn't even realize that it was me, his forgotten mother, pulling the strings. It wasn't long before desperation started eating him alive. He showed up at my house, unannounced, banging on the door like a madman, demanding answers. I let him in, but I stayed cool, watching him pace the room like a caged animal. "Mom, I need money just until I get back on my feet," he pleaded, his voice cracking. I almost laughed, remembering how he left me alone at Christmas while he dined like a king. Instead, I leaned back in my chair and said softly, "You should have thought about your feet when you kicked me aside." He tried charm, guilt, even tears, but I gave him nothing. The sight of him unraveling, his pride slipping away piece by piece, was more satisfying than any Christmas gift I could have ever asked for. He had forgotten me once, but I was making sure he'd remember this lesson for the rest of his life. When his begging failed, I decided it was time to deal the sharpest blow. I revealed that I had already changed my will months ago. Every penny, every piece of property, every family heirloom gone from his name. Instead, I left it all to charity, and a portion to his own children's college funds, making sure they'd never repeat his selfish mistakes. His face turned white, then red, then something I can only describe as hollow. "You can't do this to me," he shouted, slamming his fist on the table. But I just looked at him with the same steady eyes he once ignored. "I already did," I said calmly. In that moment, he realized he had no power left over me, no control, no safety net. He wasn't just forgotten at Christmas, he had erased himself from my life entirely. And the silence that followed was sweeter than any carol I'd ever heard. Word spread faster than either of us expected. When the lawyer confirmed the changes to my will, my son's reputation took a public beating. People in town whispered about how he left his own mother alone on Christmas, yet expected to inherit her life savings. His coworkers heard about it, and soon his boss did too. Suddenly, he was no longer the golden employee everyone respected. He was the man who abandoned his mother for money. Invitations stopped coming. Neighbors stopped waving. Even his own kids started asking questions he couldn't answer. He tried painting me as cruel, but no one bought it. They saw through the act. The man who forgot his mother on Christmas now had to live every day facing the judgmental stares of a community that once admired him, and no matter how hard he tried to bury it, the truth clung to him like a shadow he could never escape. As for me, I finally found peace. I no longer waited for a phone call that never came, or set an extra plate at the table out of hope. I had given my son every chance to show love, but he chose greed and convenience. My revenge wasn't about money, it was about teaching him that actions have consequences. Every holiday after that, I surrounded myself with friends who truly cared, people who knew the meaning of family, even if they weren't bound by blood. I watched my son from a distance, stumbling through the mess he made, and I never once stepped in to rescue him. The irony was sharp. The son who forgot his mother on Christmas would never be able to forget the fallout. And me, I smiled, not out of bitterness, but out of freedom. He thought he had broken me, but instead, I broke the chains of disappointment he'd wrapped around me for years. That was the real gift I gave myself.